Hey, Susan.
Hi, Nancy.
We have a really great topic. Today, we are going to talk about ADHD and executive functioning skills. Can you give us some background information on ADHD?
I'm going to be drawing it from two main sources, Forbes Health and also the CDC. So, you know, we've all heard the misinformation that this condition is a fad, that there's overdiagnosis, that it's just something that's popping in. The problem with that is that it is a real medical condition which can be tracked, traced, diagnosed, and treated. So we feel like it's very important to talk with somebody who works with people who have that condition and to provide some level of strategy when they're coping and living with it. One of the reasons why is it's so prevalent. We have, according to statistics, there are over 129 million children and adolescents, that not counting adults, worldwide between the ages of 5 and 19 who have this condition. Only about 20% of all people who have it actually get diagnosed officially. Some of the statistics that I read was that about 60% of the people who have it during childhood in a mild form actually continue with it into their adulthood. It affects their careers, their relationships, and other aspects of their daily life, including basic functions such as adult functions like paying bills, staying on top of schedules, home maintenance, just basic life skills. Not that they're not capable, but staying on top of them is an issue. It looks different for everybody. There are different strategies and pathways to get to the same place by different people. And we support that, and we use tools that help accomplish that. So we're bringing this issue to the forefront and inviting a special guest to help us understand it a little better. So if you're a woman and you're struggling in your 30s, relationships, career, life skills, constantly beating yourself up because there are things that are not happening. Sometimes it's skill development, but sometimes it may be something that is undiagnosed.
Today, we're going to be talking with Kelly Kruger. She's a personalized ADHD and executive functioning coach for high school students and college students. And she uses evidence based strategies from her roles as a school counselor and ADHD coach. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, everybody.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started and what led you to doing what you're doing right now?
I don't know how far back to go here, but so career-wise, I started out working in a nonprofit where we financially supported foster youth going to college. And so that kind of led me to being a school counselor because I felt like if I were inside the school system, I'd be better able to help students like foster youth who struggle to get through high school and to get into college. Here in the state of California, our caseloads are pretty large. You really have to find ways to support students effectively and efficiently because you have so many students with such a variety of challenges and needing different types of every time that I had a student in my chair and they were struggling, it seemed to come back to focus or organization or prioritization, things like that. So that led me to really decide to get specialized training in supporting executive function development. And I ended up in a coaching course to get official coach training that was supporting individuals with ADHD.
So when we're using that term coach, we're not using it loosely. And secondly, what do you mean by executive function?
Great question. So executive function, it's like you'll see it on the internet explained, it's like the air traffic control of your life, right? So it's planning and prioritizing, it's task initiation, organization, it's goal directed persistence. So having a goal and being able to work towards it. There are different philosophies about what each executive function is out there. It tends to be 9 different executive functions. Everybody has, all the experts out there have their different ideas on what each executive function is.
Is it part of a specific part of your brain, or is it the entirety of your brain?
It's the frontal lobe of your brain, so the prefrontal cortex of your brain, where it's located. So it's those higher order thinking.
That's where the decision making center is. So when we're talking about all of the things that you were listing right there for executive function, it's occurring in a specific place in the brain where decisional logic exists. And whether the logic is accurate or not is irrelevant because you operate by your own logic rules.
Executive function skills, they develop throughout 0 to around 30 years of age. And so different ones are developing at different times. The easier ones are developing at younger ages, like organization, things like that. But the more advanced ones, goal persistence, those come in later in life.
So you've explained where this all happens in the brain. So when you're working with teens and young adults, what exactly are you trying to focus on so that they can start moving ahead and figuring this out for themselves?
It's really individual. So I really try to understand what their strengths are and then where the gaps are, and seeing how we can really work with the strengths that they have to bridge the gaps for their weaknesses. This isn't necessarily a negative thing, helping them unwrap the gift of ADHD, because there's a lot of really amazing things that this type of brain can do, right? They're usually the most creative individuals. They have deep empathy. They really are the people that can think outside of the box. And it's really focusing on their strengths and helping them understand and become aware of what works for them so that they can bridge any of those weaknesses, but also working on the weaknesses as well, finding strategies that help them strengthen some of these areas. When they get into the teen years, this is when our brain starts to eliminate weaker synaptic connections and strengthen those that we're frequently using. And so this is the best time to really optimize learning positive habits and eliminating negative ones, because those are going to really connect strongly and become lifelong strong connections.
You've laid it out really well about what you're trying to do in focusing on building the good habits and taking advantage of this time period when the students' brains are in that has that great density. What exactly are you helping them do?
So it's, again, very individual for each client, of course. And the way that I specifically work with them, so a lot of times parents think that I'm there to teach them and show them and tell them. But as coaches, we know that actually we're coming and walking alongside of them, knowing that they're fully capable individuals of being able to problem solve. And what I do with students is, in the beginning, we define some goals that they have for themselves. Typically, they're coming in with some academic challenges, but it doesn't necessarily have to be academic issues that we're working with. I'm helping them find meaningful goals for themselves for the time that we're working together, and then working on the executive function skills based on those goals. So maybe the goal might be to get at least a B in a class. And so that might be for a certain student that they need to work on time management and their organization and task initiation. I often have students that want to keep their room clean. Surprise, parents, they actually want to keep their room clean. You
That does surprise me, actually, but
and all my clients this last semester, they all wanted to keep their room clean.
that is such an encouragement in my world.
So
I love that.
let's dig into that. So how do you do that? Because I have a teen who has a messy room and he has ADHD. So I need to know what can I do?
Right? There's task initiation, right? So it's like getting started, but oftentimes they're looking at it for the all that it is, right? So
Overwhelm.
Yeah, so there's clothes on the floor and dishes under the bed and trash here and there, and their assignments are strung everywhere. Or I had one student that was very artistic and there were like pens and pencils everywhere. So it's really helping them break it down into really manageable chunks. Okay, let's just look at the dishes in your room or the trash. What's like the most important thing that would help you feel better about your room getting started? So breaking it down into those manageable chunks, which might help them with the task initiation because now they're out of that overwhelm. And sometimes it can be emotional regulation, helping them figure out strategies that work for them in terms of emotional regulation. And I would say that's probably an area where most students that I work with, they have no idea, right? And then every week, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting my laundry in the basket and I'm getting it over to mom to do, or if I'm doing my own laundry, I'm doing my laundry. And of course, all of that changes if it's a college student and they're off on their own. So it's really helping them reorganize their life because they don't have that same structure that they've been used to all of their lives, with parents checking in and parents poking and prodding. Now they're on their own and they have to poke and prod themselves a little bit.
A lot of times when parents have a ADHD child, it becomes very oppositional in the relationship. And so that constant checking in, oh, the worst one is, did you take your pills? That causes a lot of emotional outbursts. And so when I can certainly understand how parents will come to you, because there's that point where we have to let them do it on their own, learn to do it on their own, and we don't want to be that negative factor all the time. What are some of and I know you're probably getting to that, but what are some of the things that the parents can do to help facilitate that so that so that we no longer have to be in that negative dynamic?
One way is providing outside support through a coach or a mentor or some way. I think that it's still important to have some sort of external accountability as they develop these skills. But I think in terms of parents and their interactions with their children, to be more of a sounding board rather than the one that is trying to get them to do the thing.
We didn't really talk about the genetic aspect of it, is that even though a majority of diagnosed students and children and adolescents, I read 60% are in families where their parents don't have ADHD. How does that affect your practice? And
ADHD is the most heritable behavioral condition out there. Oftentimes, as they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and the parents are struggling with very similar executive function challenges. And really, a lot of the learning that goes on throughout throughout childhood is modeling from the parents.
I personally have ADHD, and I was diagnosed late in life. I was diagnosed last summer in my 50s, and it was quite a shock because I'd gone through to get diagnosed about 20 years ago, and they're like, "Oh no, you don't have that. You're fine." But I was going through a life change hormonally with menopause and everything, and suddenly it was like too much for me to bear. My working with my son with his therapist, he suggested that I get diagnosed. And so I did, and I was shocked. But I now have been struggling, but at the same, trying to figure out medication and all that sort of thing. And I was totally relating to what you were saying about figuring out where your strengths are, where the gaps are. And so I have too now, I have so much more empathy for my son. Like, I really have a deeper understanding for his struggle. And now because I work with students a lot, high school students, and now I can see when someone's struggling, and I can go up then and be that like scaffolding adult to help them through it and mentor them because I have more life experience and I've developed those coping skills.
How we tend to figure out that a kid has ADHD. They've been able to compensate elementary, middle school. Maybe things started to fall apart a little bit, and then they get to high school and they have all these other pressures and freedoms that they have to manage. Or they get through all of that primary education and they get into college, and now you've added in life. They have to manage their life because parents aren't there to provide the structure and the support. And that's when it's, oh, all the wheels come off the bus. And then it's, let's figure out what's going on here. But also, just in terms of girls and women, we tend to be ADHD inattentive. And so it's more hidden. And it goes with our societal training as women to go inward, whereas boys tend to be more hyperactive ADHD.
So I have another question, because you talked about college. I want to know a little bit more about careers and relationships, because people with ADHD are really creative. They have so much energy and they can focus on things intensely. And how do you help students navigate their career choices?
I think in my experience with students, with college students, or even high school students, and they're thinking about what they want to major in college, it's helping them really figure out what their passions are and what fits for them. Oftentimes I see them trying to like fit into the career that's going to get them the most money, or the career that their parents really wanted them to consider, rather than one that fits more organically with who they are and how they show up in the world. It's helping them break out of the pressure that they're feeling from their family to go in a certain direction because the money is there and the job security is there, and really look at careers and professions that fit with their how they show up in the world and where their passions and interests lie.
Maybe Kelly, you could share how they can contact you and what kind of programs you have.
They can go to my website. It's kellykruger.com to connect with me. There's a contact form on there, but they can also schedule an appointment with me if they want to just have a conversation about what it is that I do. And I work with students on a school term basis. I have them commit to a full school term to work with me. And we meet every week for a session. And within the session, there's a check-in time where we're just like checking in and evaluating how did things go last week. With college students at the beginning of the semester, we go through all of their syllabi, pull out all of the information that they might need from that so that we can lay it out and they can see their semester at a glance. I'm not a tutor, right? So you bring me your calculus, I can't help you. But
Nor can anyone on this program at the moment, just so the audience knows.
But I can help you get started. I can help you think about the assignment, plan it out with the end in mind. What's the end product that we have here? What do you need in order to meet that end product? What are the things, the supplies that you need in order to make that happen? At about week 9 or 10, that's when the rubber has really met the road for most students. Not all, but most students, where they've really started taking on these habits that they've been trying to develop over the course of time, and they're becoming more natural. Whether they meet the goals or not, the outcome is really up to them. But for me, my piece of it is being that accountability partner, being the mirror for them, like helping them recognize patterns, whether they're positive or negative patterns, helping them recognize strategies that are working for them or strategies that aren't, that we need to really let go of. They often come to me with these strategies that have been imposed on them that they're working really hard to make work. So it's also letting go of these ideas and strategies that just aren't working for them.
Kelly, that sounds like a powerful program.
This has been a great conversation, Kelly. Thank you so much for helping us explore ADHD and what it's like to identify strengths and passions so that students can look toward career goals and college to help them lead their best life, because we know that everyone has struggles, and you've really helped us understand that in those years that students are having that really big neurocity experience and brain is remodeling. It's the perfect time to develop these new habits. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that with us. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you.